Good to go.
I wrote that down here, heads up, about the start of the meeting so they can start the recording. John, Bruce Woodruff on your chair. Got a couple things I need to tell you. Number one, I didn't wear my hearing aids today, so I have a hard time hearing what everybody says around the table, and most especially in Zoom land. So please speak up for me. If it looks like I'm being silly, it's because I'm not really hearing everything that everybody is saying. All right, so let's go on to introductions. That's number one on the agenda. And I already introduced myself. I'm the town planner in Milton.
Marshall Goldberg from Brookfield.
Bye.
Town Newmarket.
Rod Nichols, Coast.
Jen Casper Lee.
Vanessa Price from Town of Barrington.
Michelle Muir, City of Somersworth.
Colin Lentz, Stratford Regional Plan.
Jen says Stratford Regional Planning.
Mike Bezanson, city engineer for the city of Rochester.
And we'll go around on Zoom. Lucy?
Lucy St. John, New Hampshire DOT. Good morning, everyone.
Steve?
Yes, good morning, Steve Pesci, University of New Hampshire in Durham.
Lee?
Good morning, Lee Levine, Federal Highway Administration.
Andrea?
Good morning, Andrea Cass, Upper Valley Lakes NMP Regional Planning Commission.
Tim?
Tim White, New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Air Resources Division.
Dino?
Dino Scala, Town of Wakefield, Town Administrator.
Lori?
Lori Widener Patterson. I am with New Hampshire DOT.
Megan?
Good morning, Megan Taylor Better, SRPC.
And Jackson?
Good morning, Jackson Rand with SRPC.
Thank you all for being here on a Friday before a holiday weekend.
2A. 2A. Minutes from August 5th. We couldn't do them last time because we didn't have a quorum. Has everybody reviewed the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion was made, seconded.
That was Michelle and Marshall.
Yes. Are there any comments or changes to these minutes? Guess we have to have a roll call. What you do it, Colin.
Sorry. Going around the room here, Michelle?
Aye.
Vanessa?
Aye.
Trin?
Aye.
Brad?
Abstain.
Bart?
Aye.
Marshall?
Aye.
Bruce?
Yes.
Mike?
Right, I understand I wasn't here.
All right, that works. And on Zoom, one for DOT, Lucy?
I abstain.
Steve?
Abstain, I wasn't present.
Dino?
Abstain, wasn't present.
And Tim? Tim White? Step away. Just come back to him, or do we have enough to
We're good.
Okay, cool.
Motion passes.
Motion passes.
2B.
Officer elections, after we do TAC annually, and it's supposed to be the first meeting after the fiscal year, but we've had to pick up some things. So, thank you, Bruce, for offering to stay on, and Michael Williams from Coast is our co-chair or vice chair to step in occasionally, and so the floor is open for others that want to get involved and have a little runoff, but we have a slate. Bruce is our chair, and Michael is our vice chair.
Yay.
Usually, if there's an incumbent, we're happy about that.
It just means that I can never be in Zoom land.
Right.
Well, If we need a formal motion, I'm happy to make a motion to approve the slate of officers.
Motion from Steve. Second from Bart. Thank you. And we'll go, if there are any other discussion, we'll go around the room. Michelle?
There is a little bit of discussion.
Okay.
This is my fourth time, possibly my fifth, but this is my fourth time as chair of the TAC. I know that Steve Pesci and Rand know. It goes all the way back to 1990 almost, I think.
Was Weeks Crossing still a roundabout? Because you were with us when Weeks Crossing was a roundabout. Yeah.
There was a roundabout, and I think there were
I'm
horses
against the tide
around.
on that one.
Were you in Dover?
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
but I was not for turning the Weeks Crossing
Into a
sort of
crossing.
roundabout into the monster thing it is today. It was more about developing the land than it was about fixing transportation issues.
That was a good thought. Or I've heard that was a good thought. So. Ready for a vote? Michelle?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Katrin?
Yes.
Brad?
Okay.
Art?
Yes.
Marshall? Yes. Mike?
Yes.
Abstain.
Okay. Lucy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Dino? Dino Scala? Student government class.
Skip you.
Okay. Three, 2C.
Hey, it's you.
Yep. The policy committee, let me share my screen if I can not screw that up. The policy committee reviewed the sure. Does everyone see the scores here or the weights? Okay. The policy committee reviewed the weights as approved by TAC. A few folks wanted to or hadn't put their weights in yet, so they requested a little more time, which was fine. We had some wiggle room, and we received a few more scores. They bumped up the natural hazard resilience category a little bit more than it was before, and I believe the equity, environmental justice, and accessibility criteria. So both of those received a little boost. Safety and state of repair kind of stayed in place as the major categories. No one voted down safety, but a few folks wanted a little more in natural hazards and equity, which is great. So it feels like a pretty balanced set of criteria weights here. Support got a little more of a boost, I think, from a couple people, but it stayed relatively similar. So just wanted to give folks a little extra time, and so then sending it back to you guys if you had any other thoughts or questions. Or,
I'll start. I think that as long as state of repair and safety stay 1 and 2, 2 and 1, I'm okay with it. My personal feeling is that state of repair should have been number 1. But it's good.
you all are good, then we can, policy will vote on it one more time.
Got a hand up over here.
Why don't you, hey Steve, go for it.
Hey, Colin, I just want to echo what Bruce said. I think we've ended up with a good system. You know, I kind of want to echo Bruce's comment. I think safety many times flows from the state of repair, but it's, you know, it's nitpicking at this point. I think it's a really good pie setup. Pie slices are good, and I appreciate everyone's input in it.
Sure. And like you said, Steve, the criteria are not mutually exclusive, and each project is different. So, again, thank you everyone for
Sorry, I haven't been part of this, but I'm going to ask the question. Does safety include all users or just?
Yes, and so we have projects that are primary or singularly for pedestrian safety that are in the run, and other ones that are more multimodal. One's a roundabout, one is a multi-use path.
Okay. The only time I think safety and state of repair maybe diverge is in design. But those two being the two highest makes sense to me if we're looking at this holistically and not with single automobiles.
Yes.
Or single occupancy vehicles being.
Definitely. And just on that note, there are the sub criteria. If folks aren't familiar, so it's in safety. Each project will be judged or ranked based on the safety need and the safety impact. So if there are a high number of pedestrian crashes, but the project proposed only does something for vehicle safety, then I would expect that to get a lower score than one that proposes something specifically for pedestrians in that context.
Okay.
So the Transportation Planners Collaborative came up with the scoring for the criteria guide that went out with stuff, and I thought that was a nice, helpful resource.
Great, thanks.
Good question, thank you.
And we're looking for a motion to recommend the policy or
Yes.
to approve?
That's the formal action, yes. Everyone good?
I'm happy to make a motion to recommend approval of this paradigm.
Thank you, Steve. Second from Katrin. All right, any other discussion? We go around one more time. Michelle?
Yes.
Vanessa?
Yes.
Katrin?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Art? Yes. Marshall?
Yes.
Yes.
Mike? Yes. Lucy?
Abstain.
Maurice? Steve?
Yes.
Where are we? Dino?
Yes.
All right, and that's everyone. Tim's MIA.
Is he stuck in,
Let me make sure. Because
I don't know, his attendees? Yeah.
screen sharing. Welcome back, Tim. Hope you weren't waiting too long. All right. Next.
Yeah, now we're gonna move on to 3A, which is the discussion about the first round of the 10-year plan project scorings. And I guess Alan's gonna talk to us about the project snapshot papers you got here.
Yes.
And we are supposed to ask questions if we have to.
So, I think it was Tuesday, I sent out, send out an email with a survey. The scoring will be done by SurveyMonkey this year instead of a giant monster scary Excel, which was nice. Thanks to my colleague Mark, who just joined us on Zoom, as well as full project snapshots and the criteria guide again. So I printed those snapshots up for the lucky few who came in person. And this is the first round of scoring. This first part is to get a prioritized list to New Hampshire DOT so they can do an engineering review. At the same time, our engineers, our friends at VHB, are also reviewing these projects. I've had a couple of meetings with them. We're going to be doing some additional data collection so that they can start generating designs and cost estimates. And so I wanted to provide as much detail as I could on the individual projects. I'm going to run through some of those today. We got Steve here and others who are representing these projects and are welcome to speak to them as well once I get to those. So we need to get a list to DOT by November 11th. So we have this month and next to discuss for you to send me input and to fill in the scores. The weights that you all just voted on will be put in the back end of that SurveyMonkey, the results. So you all will score them, and then the weights, once policy approved those, will be applied in the back end before anyone sees any scores. So that's the SurveyMonkey helps because we can change the flow a little bit. So that's the general process. I realized my slides might not be in the same order as I put them in the packet there. My fault if that's the case.
Well, can I just
Yes.
do a couple things here? So this is an initial preliminary scoring to come up with roughly a short list of what's going to go to DOT. You will see the scoring again late winter, like the beginning of 2023. Where we will do our final ranking and our final selection of what will be moving forward for the selected projects. So one of the things that you will see in the scoring sheet is it will ask you for your name. Make sure you put your name in there. We're not going to disclose to other people how you score your projects. However, when we do that second round of scoring, if you would like to see what you had put in during the first round, we can export that for you and you can have your score sheets. So when you go to review your scores and adjust, you can have that available.
Question. Do all the projects go to DOT just based on your score? Just however they score, or is there like a short list? Like we cut it off.
So there will likely be a cutoff.
Okay.
Not for this.
It could this first, it depends.
Okay.
So typically, and what we don't have from DOT yet is what that limit is on how many that they're going to take and they're going to review. And they do this review during like November, December, January. And we don't know how many they're going to take. So we do everything and we might end up taking the lowest one or two and they will not move forward. And then those will go to DOT, and then we may need to reduce the number of projects even further. So it's a kind of a multi-tier approach to narrowing down to the final selection of projects.
Well, and thank you for the reminder. The big changes between this voting round and the next one will be detailed design proposals from VHB. So they'll do some feasibility analyses in addition to your tax input, and we will have the budget confirmed. So this is just projects in order, not constrained by the amount of funding. We will have slightly more than $5 million as a budget. So the short list will come from, we can only fund so many projects. We have 7 this round, which is awesome, and they're all really great. But $5 million is not going to pay for all of these projects.
And maybe not even just one.
That's possible.
It depends, yeah. So
that leads me to my question about all of this.
Mhm.
Is there an appropriate point for, and it's because I looked at the first project, for the folks that put this project in to reduce the scope of the project so that it's not $2 million over the whole total budget that we
Yep.
have?
Yeah, and that happened in the previous round. Farmington voluntarily removed one segment of their 3-segment sidewalk project so that we could fit another project in. And that's entirely possible. I'm not calling out Somersworth, but the Main Street Complete Streets project is large, and so the 10-year plan funds could pay for a segment of that fits in with that overall project. Could be applicable in any of them.
I also note that this round, there's a distinction from prior rounds in that there are many different discretionary funding programs out there. And so if you've seen DOT's presentation where they do the color of money, where they talk about the different funding pools that are available for projects, we're kind of throwing that out. And we're trying to be kind of funding source blind because there may be other opportunities. So while we may have those projects that we advance for the traditional, surface transportation dollars that are the 10-year plan funds, there may also be other pools of money available that haven't previously. And so we may be able to kind of shift and adjust when we get to that final scoring and say, these are the ones we want to put forward for this funding pool. And we think this larger project might be a really good candidate for this other funding pool. So there's some opportunities there. And then also it's you all that kind of decide what the regional priorities are. So if one really big project is the regional priority, then that's up to you all, the communities, to come together and decide versus whether you want to advance several smaller projects. Different regions take different approaches to what they want to put forward.
I think we have time to deliberate this
Yeah.
year, which is a big thing. And the fact that we have VHB, any of this is essentially our Metro Plan project solicitation. So all of these projects will get an engineering analysis with a scope and cost estimate, which can go a long way toward TAP application for if it's, or CMAQ. There's going to be congestion mitigation rounds coming up sometime pretty soon. So complicated situation, but thankfully we have time. All right, I'll go through the projects real quick. Well, not really quickly. Somersworth's project, I've talked about this one with them for a little while now. This is along 236 or West High Street, off to the left. Is that, can folks on Zoom, are you seeing the map image? Okay, perfect. Over this way, this is going back towards 108. Going to downtown here, you have a church here and city schools down below the image. They're also, they have an ongoing couple of a TAP project here for sidewalks that are connecting the school to the downtown. Heavily residential here and within walking distance of a park, pretty much in walking distance of downtown. So anecdotally, quite a heavy pedestrian traffic. A lot of heavy pedestrian traffic, attending church in the morning and kids walking to school. I think my next slide, this unfortunately the most updated Google image is when paving was happening. There is a crosswalk that was painted here that kind of ends right here. So they VHB noted that and would incorporate that into the design. This utility pole here would have to go somewhere else. But you can see sidewalks here connecting down to the school and up to downtown. So this one, there isn't a specific design scope like a roundabout or a pedestrian hybrid beacon or something like that. They're going to take a look at this and make some design recommendations at this point. Any questions on that one? Right, we can come back to it, of course. So this is the High Street or Main Street Complete Streets. It's a long one, that's why the image is so zoomed out. But just shy of a mile along the riverfront here, where the mill building, formerly Clara, is located. The railroad tracks, I believe New Hampshire North Coast, I heard from them that they're looking to improve the rail crossing, that there's just an at-grade pedestrian and vehicle crossing here. They want to eliminate that and make it so that the pedestrians and vehicles are separated from the trains, because it's a bit of a safety situation here, especially if more people are going to be crossing the tracks. So a mix of kind of downtown residential and commercial space here, and the light and the industrial. So I think my next slide, I just took some Google Earth images. It gives you an idea of what the street looks like in the residential area. You can see some businesses along the route. Here's where this is looking north towards downtown. So you have the start of the downtown commercial area over here, some sites along the way, and some storefronts that they're looking to renovate, I think, along this main street, that would really complement the downtown. I think that was a transportation enhancements grant back in 2013 or 14 that brought up the downtown to where it is now. So just a street view of the kind of built up close to downtown. This is looking south now with downtown to our back. The river is off to the left, and the railroad tracks are just on the other side of the road. And this is kind of a look at what the residential portion looks like to the south. You can see sidewalks are already in place. It looks like a lot of underground sewer work as well that would be separately funded, but pretty comprehensive project. And there's a lot going on right in the vicinity here. I think that's it. I was going to say something else. Anything else you want to add, Jill?
Just that we're gonna have a bunch of residential development being added. Probably, we just got a project for 130 units in the vicinity of that. And we are under contract with Wright Pierce, who's doing the engineering.
Right, thank you. Yeah, so this is already funded in the CIP. That's a big piece. So VHB is doing a kind of peer review, but engineers have already looked at that, and it's pretty much funded. So
I have a question about this particular part of Main Street. Right now, outboard of the fog lines, is that parking right now?
Yes,
And what will the project do to that?
I think there might be some traffic calming measures that are, I haven't seen what Wright Pierce is working on yet, but I think they're proposing some traffic calming, some redesign of the parking along Main Street, kind of towards the Clara as well. There's some pull-in angled parking all along there.
Steve?
I just wanted to understand, you said that the project is funded in the CIP. You meant that the underground utility work is funded in the Summersworth CIP?
No, the whole entire, we have it in the capital improvements plan. as
Okay.
well.
Match funding or full funding or
Full funding. So when we submitted for this project, we were encouraged to apply because of all the different pools of federal funding that are going to be coming out, and that this is kind of a shovel, this should be a shovel-ready project.
Thank you.
Other questions or points to be made?
It is on our public transit network.
Mhm.
So I assume that there'd be consideration for that.
I think that was my point too about this particular stretch of highway. My assumption is if if this is complete streets, you would be narrowing up the travel lanes and possibly adding bicycle accommodations outboard of the fog lines, doing something else with parking where it makes sense. And I'm just not understanding the whole design of this by just looking at that. So.
Yeah, I think it's 75.
And bus stops.
Yeah. That would be a part of the project.
We have a question, kind of a little outside this. Where do the rail lines go?
That is New Hampshire North Coast, so that is just between Ossipee and it links up in Dover and Rollinsford.
So it goes on to the main line?
Yes.
Rollinsford.
Yep. But only New Hampshire North Coast freight traffic on this line particularly.
Right now.
Correct, yeah. So it's a spur line. It doesn't connect to anything beyond. So it could. There's always someone who wants the ski train to return.
Yes. Actually, just to be clear, it's owned by the state of New Hampshire and leased to New Hampshire North Coast, that line, correct?
Excellent. Thank you.
That's familiar with my rail right away stuff.
Vanessa had a comment?
No, I was just, ski train would be awesome.
So I'm just thinking long range, if this is becoming like a transportation, this might be a good opportunity, long range, if we have complete streets, then that rail line never gets upgraded, it might be a great place for a train station.
And that is a factor because Pan Am was sold to CSX. And CSX traditionally is more willing to invest in their infrastructure as far as maintenance and improvements. And David Campbell, the lawyer for New Hampshire North Coast, I talked to him fairly regularly, and he said, with a few modifications, Eastern Propane is ready to double their volume that they put on the New Hampshire North Coast cars. When I asked David, just what is your pie in the sky project? He said a transloading facility, which just allows truck to train and back and forth, somewhere in the Dover, Rochester, Somersworth area. The big industrial area behind Skyhaven would be an excellent location, but this would be another one potentially along this route. So his vision was for a transloading facility that would be available to small shippers. The place behind Skyhaven, the Granite Ridge Park, our Granite State Business Park, has a couple of large manufacturers and also a brand new small logistics company. And so there's a lot of movement in that area, as well as the study in 2024 funded in the 10-year plan for connections to the turnpike, basically from an economic development standpoint. That would include the Somersworth area. So yeah, a lot going on in rail world that could improve passenger rail and freight and the connections there. And then I don't know if you all saw on the news there's a group that wants a train in Montreal, an overnight 14-hour train. That'd be neat. I think this would be a little bit of our section of Amtrak would be a little bit of a barrier as far as capacity, but a lot going on in Craig. Right. Steve, is your hand up again or just from before? Okay, cool, no worries. Durham's project here. This is the scope is for a roundabout at this intersection toward the western edge of campus. A lot of new off-campus housing down here along 155A headed towards Lee. There's the multi-use path here, the bike ped path that is very well used and by many people. Main campus is off this direction. This is only a stop controlled intersection currently. Stop signs here for this traffic and this traffic. Thankfully, no real major crash history here, but this is a kind of proactive project as the density as far as student housing has increased exponentially over the past few years in Durham. Don't want this to become a safety hazard or a congestion snarl. The buses use this as well. Right of way, thankfully, wouldn't be a big deal here. I think the bike ped path would be the biggest barrier to the footprint of a roundabout. It's either state or UNH owned on all 4 quadrants. This is the street view of the intersection. So pretty, traffic can move pretty fast along this route unless everyone's trying to get out of campus and it jams up. Mostly local UNH traffic here, but this route is, 155A is used by cyclists for recreation, as well as residents here. This is the roundabout just to the east as a potential comparison, probably pretty similar as far as footprint. I don't know about specific designs, but I would anticipate there might be some pedestrian accommodations similarly, and pretty similar configuration. Any other thoughts, Steve?
No, I just want to add for the group that this is a project that both the town and the university strongly support. As Colin mentioned, the university and the state own the property on all 4 quadrants of this intersection. So this would, apart from some potential wetlands nearby, property acquisition would be not a problem on this project. And as Colin mentioned, our transit system, which is very high frequency during the academic year, we're talking going through this junction would be for as many as 6 buses an hour. This is a high frequency transit route. We struggle because the buses cannot safely make left turns out of Mass Road and 155A. So it really hampers some of our route flexibility in this spot. Guess the other point that I would mention is the university pre-COVID had been developing plans for West Edge development. So the left side of your screen, some of you know we have a large parking area there, a vehicle service center, and some other office buildings. And we have restarted that whole discussion about West Edge development, which may include additional academic space, a research park. Regardless, it will increase the need to have high capacity transit and private vehicle connections between the west edge of campus and core campus. So we see traffic growing at this intersection. I know the number in the project sheets that Colin showed, it was a COVID year, it was like 9,000, but in the normal, we see Main Street has plus or minus 12,000 vehicles a day, and Route 155A South is probably 7,000 to 9,000 at this point. So we want to keep this on the radar screen. It's a high importance project to the town and the university. We think a roundabout is perfect here. We would not really be excited about a traffic signal, but we hope you'll take a visit out there and look at it and see some of the current traffic issues and think about the future West Edge development of the campus as well.
Thank you, Steve. And if there's anything definitive on those developments that's worth sending to VHB, they can put that into their trip generation.
Okay. Yeah, we're in the process of our master plan restarting right now, and that is a key project. So I probably can send you a summary of West Edge plans within the next month or two.
Okay, great.
Brad?
When you say West Edge development, Steve, are you talking between Main and Spinney and those open fields now, or are you talking?
No. Thank you. It would all be on that quadrant where the red dot's moving. The north side of Main Street is agricultural land. It's certified organic agricultural land, and it's important to our research program. So when I'm talking about West Edge, I am talking on the southwest quadrant of your screen where it says USDA, Forest Service. Those are buildings that we own and lease to those federal agencies. So it's not on the north side of Main Street. Thank you. That is our considered prime protected agricultural land.
And so does that, it's basically where the U.S. Forest Service is, because then beyond that, you're developed.
Well, so what we're talking about doing is redeveloping. So a lot of the development that's behind USDA and Forest Service is a mix of large parking lots and the transit. So we're looking at that whole parcel and how it might be redeveloped, changed. We don't view surface parking as highest and best use of that land. So everything is up for reevaluation in that southwest quadrant.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Colin?
Durham's second project is sort of a long-range project. They're anticipating in the next 10 years that they're going to need to do a full reclamation of Durham Point Road here. This is a sort of little residential loop off of 108. 108 coming from the top of the screen going towards Newmarket this way. Between the Chronic Creek Bridge and 108. This is pretty popular with cyclists and folks that have no other roads to walk on who live along the road here. It's twisty and windy and shady. And so not really conducive to pedestrian safety. Thankfully, there haven't been any crashes, at least that were in the data we have. There are trails in here in the middle. I think the Sweet Trail is in here, and then other access to the coastal area. So they wanted to get an assessment of possible pedestrian and traffic sort of multimodal improvements that they could do while they're investing in a full depth reclamation of pavements. So kind of a proactive project here that they want to get some input on from engineers. So no real scope per se at this point yet until VHB gives them some recommendations.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
I drive this every Saturday morning
You love it.
on my way to the dump. And yes, there are bicycle and vehicle challenges. I used to ride this all the time on my bike. I don't anymore.
I'd be a little scared. So
You gotta pick the right time of day.
yeah, but so next one in Lee along Mask Road or 155. This is just to the south and west of the Durham project. So focusing on, I've been working with Katrin on this, and they wanted to do something with bicycle pedestrian, and we kind of narrowed in on the downtown town center stretch here. So the town offices are currently at a temporary location over on 125, but the Lee Library and Town Hall complex, the town is working on a renovation project for that. You have a church and the Mastway Elementary School and rec fields. So I recommended that they look at putting a separated multi-use path off on this side of the road, which has very few right-of-way conflicts. It's either wooded or you can see here a little bit with the sun glare, but you can see this is pretty typical of the right-of-way off to the side where a path would be. A 10-foot separated multi-use path could be installed without investing in a sidewalk plow, which can be a bit of a barrier for municipalities looking to put in their first sidewalks, because you can just get your local guy with the pickup truck plow to push the snow off of it, and it gives you a little more wiggle room as far as curbing and other things like that. We have one more shot here. This is just in front of the school. So the one challenge will be how to deal with the driveways and how to manage traffic, especially if you have that peak morning and afternoon drop off and pick up at the schools. But I saw a lot of value in connecting the community features along here, since I've been told that students walk down to the library and they're anticipating having more students go to the library with the renovation project. And it also connects to trails that go over all the way to the public safety complex. So a lot of things to be connected here, and saw a lot of value in it. And so this was my recommendation to them.
Can I add anything?
Yeah, Adjourn.
Yeah, so on the, we're hoping on the warrant for, warrant article for this March, that next to the library will be our new town office building. That's the plan. We're working on that right now. So right now you come from Durham or someplace and then it's just really hard to get through Lee. We have wonderful, wonderful roads all around. It's lovely, great to go bike riding and walking, but this area is so dangerous that it makes people not able to use that area, which really cuts us off from people that don't have a car. It's really hard to live in our town because it's very hard to get to other places. They tend to move to other areas if they don't have a car. And like he was saying with Mastway Elementary School, the kids have to get on the bus to go to the library because it's not safe for them to walk. And we have after school programs all the time, and we could have them every day at the Lee Library, but it's just, you have to bus kids there, which takes an extra 15 minutes. And so that we have a bus shortage already. So it would really open up so many opportunities for our town to start thriving and also supporting people that might not have access to a car, that might not be able to move around, and also just to do more in the town without moving. Plus, we share a lot of parking lots. So when there's a big event at Mastway, it's great to have the parking lot overflow, and same thing when the town's doing something, we use Mastway, so that would let people have a way to walk.
One question. What kind of infrastructure is planned for getting the students at Mastway across the road to the path?
So they wouldn't have to walk across. So,
I thought I heard you say that the path was going to be on the wooded side.
no, so everything would be on this side in Mastway and the town library. And
I'm looking south.
yes, this is looking south, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the school is right here. So I meant the driveways, it's sort of a loop driveway into the school. So that's the only thing that would have to be dealt with so that there's.
The only ones that use the loop are the buses. No cars are allowed there. That's just.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Steve?
I think there's such a great opportunity here for the town, and I think the point of a separated trail, mixed-use trail or walking trail, et cetera, is so much better than, for decades we were always kind of forced to build these sidewalks along roads, which are not really very aesthetically pleasing, not really pleasant to walk on, and difficult to maintain, as you pointed out, Colin. So I think this is great to see the town of Lee pursuing this, and I hope that you can design a trail that is as free from the constraints of the road corridor as you can possibly do it, with property rights and regulations. So free yourself of being a sidewalk on the road. Good luck.
Also have a really hard time. We have to pay a police officer every single time for drop off and pickup because the road is so fast.
Yeah.
Right. And this would just be a really nice natural.
I was thinking too, when you said 15 minutes for the bus, which I think, loading, unloading, moving, and then you see on the screen, it's only 0.3 of a mile. And it shows you, how sometimes walking, biking can be way more efficient than the vehicle-based network that we've ended up living on.
100%.
And so to Steve's point, my overall recommendation was if you want to make it more obvious that the town center is not just for cars.
Yes.
And a separated path, sidewalks just blend into your usual, you expect sidewalks and you don't really think about them unless there are a whole bunch of school kids walking on, I suppose. But with a separated path, you could even have lighting or local art or something like that along that to bring people's attention. It's like, I'm not just hauling on 155 anymore, I'm now in the town center. So that was part of the gesture.
Any further comments or questions?
Couple more. Second one is in Lee. This one's real fun. This has been on DOT's radar for a little while. They try to address these sort of antiquated things that have built up since the horse and buggy days. A lot of redundancy here in this intersection. This is the multi-use path starting point here at the town office and library. This goes out to 125, and this is some nice country roads going down into, get you all the way to the market eventually. A lot of cyclists along here. Most of the time when I'm out here at this intersection, I see 1 or 2 people going by. This is probably the highest speed section here. And there are stop signs sprinkled in and around. This traffic does not stop this way. And I think there's some yield things here. So it's kind of a snarl. Also, thankfully, haven't had any fatalities here or serious injuries. I think this is a situation where, because it's so crazy, people slow down because they're like, what is happening?
It's terrifying.
So everyone agrees that something needs to be done here. DOT worked with some UNH seniors in the engineering department this past fall. And they do student projects on things like this to give them some experience analyzing projects or intersections. So, they're college seniors. They're not, certified engineers yet. Take that with a grain of salt. But they took some time to present some potential solutions that are included in the packet of project snapshots, and VHB also has those. The street view is kind of hard to do because it's such an expansive thing. You can see this is the center of the triangle looking south with the Lee Town Center to our back. As far as we know, no major historical issues here in the center, like a cemetery that's been landlocked or anything like that, or historical markers. There's not some, the last chestnut tree in New Hampshire staying in the middle. Right. So kind of hard to give you a better view of the street view here, but the George Bennett Road crossing here, the majority of traffic is headed along this route, and then local traffic branching off. There are recreation fields that are used down the road this way that are town-owned, I believe, soccer and baseball fields. So plenty of folks congregating up there. We're going to get a look at what can be isolated so that this can be teed off, potentially turning this into a single T somehow, or consolidating all of these intersections. This part here is fairly useless as far as I can tell, and this access is over to the public safety building.
The most important feature in our whole town is Little River Park, which is on 155, which is completely separated and unable to get to from the town center. And it's really where so much.
Good opportunity to connect to get that trail.
Well, that's the thing. You have the trail, and then you have any way to go
right
now, and now you have all the. Yeah. Like it opens up the whole town to start thriving.
In an ideal future, there would be a safe pedestrian connection from that trail down to the park.
But even if it was just slightly safe as a bicyclist, because you are just looking every direction the whole way, like it's so scary. You can get to the Park Wheel Road but there's no place to park or to. Exactly, and it's a huge. Yeah, straight down.
So I just call this the situation in my head.
We call it the. I won't even go into it. It's a really hard place, and a lot of people avoid going through Lee because they just don't want to deal with this.
Yeah. So a lot to be done here. Any other questions on this one? Last one. The funnest for last in Newmarket. VHB said challenge accepted. This project. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you, Dino. This project stems from the 108 and 152 intersection here. I've got some street views for you. Hundreds of close calls that get observed all the time by business owners. You've got restaurants. This is the very southern most part of the dense downtown where traffic really slows down. And so they've been wanting to do something about this intersection for a long time. And so I threw out an idea, and we met with DOT and town staff a little while ago, just before Bart joined Newmarket, to close a section of this. So you've got, this is 108 going south here, 152 headed out, and if you go up this way, it eventually connects up to Lee where we were just looking. So sort of a 3D view. There's a steep slope here as you're heading into downtown, but you can see the dense downtown area. This is just an emergency signal for fire trucks and emergency vehicles. So here is the intersection in question, and the Google car caught a brave cyclist heading up this hill. You can see there's a stop sign here. This is basically a driveway slash alley. And the restaurant owner was an advocate for this because he watches people almost get hit on a daily basis. There's another alley down there that I believe goes down to the river, if not the kayak
Pump
launch.
station too.
Yeah, and yes.
Yeah.
And back behind us is up 152. So here's the view from the hill. You can see, you can't see cars coming in here who are supposed to be stopping. And if you're coming up here, you got to inch your way out to see cars coming up the hill here. So again, no fatalities because it's so dangerous, ironically. But you can see in the crash information, there have been plenty of incidents here. So we want to avoid a fatality in the future and make this a better situation. Yeah.
So Colin, I literally lived another 50 yards
Down this way?
behind where, no, that next image behind there.
Oh, yeah.
So what about the fire station?
Right, so
I have to assume there's going to be some consideration for them to go from this intersection onto 108.
Okay, I did note that they have the fire station nearby with VHB and DOT, so they know that that's a situation. And
Yeah,
I think that's hopefully
that
won't be a
has
deal
to be
breaker.
part of it.
But so, and I'll get to you in a sec, 1 sec, Steve. So here, the proposal here is to close this section, I always get my east and west mixed up being from the West Coast, but the eastbound section of 152 here, where parking is theoretically here, but it's kind of silly and abysmal. My original sort of pie in the sky, let's throw it out there and see what happens kind of proposal was to just turn this entire section into a pedestrian only space for business owners and restaurants. That becomes a problem when folks who don't know what's going on get here, realize it's closed, and then angrily drive through the residential areas because they didn't know what was happening. So, and I threw that out there just to hear why it would be so bad, knowing that it would be bad. But just the scope as it stands is closing this section and keeping this traffic here. But before I go any further, Steve, do you have a question?
I just have a feeling that what you're proposing on screen right now, I think the residents of Newmarket are going to be a little challenged by the design shown on screen. To me, this is like a ball of string, and if you start pulling something, it gets out of control. I want to ask maybe a dumb question, because I've thought about this for years. Why not just make it a three-way stop intersection and all safety problems disappear? Yes, it adds some delay onto the 108 through traffic, but man, a $5,000 refresh of stop signs and three-way intersection would solve this problem from a safety perspective, wouldn't it?
It used to be like that.
Sorry?
Did it used to be like that?
I almost think it was. And, you know, you look at that cross arm and the flasher they put in, you could even make it a signal for God's sakes. But I appreciate what the bigger picture you're thinking about, Colin. And I'm just wondering if it isn't way too complicated a mousetrap, that if this is truly a safety problem, can't we just?
It may be too complicated. The idea got the green light from DOT and folks, but it certainly isn't a done deal. And the possibility of a signal where you're noting the mast arm was thrown out as well. So I think it's going to take, we're going to have to do turning movement counts at each corner of the triangle here and see what the
I guess I don't have to tell you this, but I think the local political and public reaction to any bigger change, radical change is going to be a challenge. Like I bet people would accept a three-way stop or signal much more than they would accept some of the bigger picture changes that you're proposing. But enough said, that's Newmarket and DOT workout, I guess.
I did emphasize that point that something of this scale is going to need a heck of a lot more public input at the local level. But wanted to get engineers looking at this situation, because I think the last time some engineers looked at it was back in the early 2000s. They had a charrette with something similar with a full closure proposal. And I think it elicited many public comments, as you alluded to, Steve. So, Brad, yeah.
If you cause a lot more stops and starts there, I'd be concerned about all the additional pollution you're creating.
So, yeah, the DOT made the good point with that hill. There is a fair amount of truck traffic.
Yeah.
And if you get a truck, tractor trailer stopping on there, it's going to be, the buildings downwind are going to be black. So that is a factor there. They didn't really like some other potential things because of that.
Yeah. You could do a southbound stop only. I mean.
Yeah. So, just some, so potential, this intersection got improved a few years ago. There are railroad tracks down here, a little ways down. So the traffic would be rerouted onto Jerry Avenue here. And again, avoiding a full closure so that we don't have people driving through the neighborhoods as much. Obviously, re-signing this to make it really obvious that the eastbound lane closes if that goes ahead. I had a concern about if we close this and eliminated oncoming traffic, you get this slingshot effect of people coming from downtown and punching in as they leave the dense area and slingshotting around this. So I pointed that out and see some traffic calming. And again, the emergency access is another big issue here with this being closed. So yeah, this is our most complex situation, I think, and hopefully I didn't go too overboard on the imagination with the scope here. But VHB, I think we'll consider this the fully built out crazy version, and maybe there'll be some scaled back alternatives, including an improved traffic control at this intersection, which is really the main issue. Newmarket is looking at some increased development south of the intersection here. There's some open commercial areas, and that section of 108, I don't think my overall view was big enough. No.
So the antiquated one-way around the triangle is outdated and won't work?
I don't know. I wouldn't. It seems like more people are trying to get rid of those or thinking about getting rid of those, but.
Well, I mean, I have to explore it more, but it looks like it might solve some of the problems that we have there.
It might. I can throw that out to VHB.
Clockwise rotation around the triangle.
Yeah.
I mean counterclockwise.
I drive the area all the time. That doesn't make sense.
Okay. That's a good point. I can throw that out. So, and again, when talking to New Market folks, I emphasized the section of 108 south of here is pretty high speed. As it enters the New Market area, it goes pretty suddenly from not country roads, but diffuse residential area to commercial and schools and recreational areas. So I said, the more you can use the infrastructure to emphasize the fact that people are no longer, cruising up from new fields, and now you're entering the town area of New Market, that would be my recommendation. Bruce, you working something out? We got a few. Okay, and yeah, Steve, we can do air quality definitely, I think, with the updated traffic count evaluation. Any other comments, questions?
We're done, yes.
I think this was our last one. So again, hope this was helpful. I think I have most of this, what I was talking about in the packets. And take a shot at the SurveyMonkey scoring. I think it was, Mark did a really nice job setting that up. And you score all the projects at once. So you don't have to do a new survey for each project. And it'll give us some numbers and we can apply the weights. So, I think that's enough.
When do these need to be in?
I forget the deadline I put on there. We need to send the projects to DOT by November 11th. So with my meeting follow-up, I will include a hard deadline.
We need to be done before the October TAC meeting.
Yes.
Because at the October TAC meeting, you will need to it'll be like your last chance to review the preliminary scoring and make your vote to recommend it to policy.
So the October TAC is on the 7th of October.
Yeah.
List there's.
Oh my gosh, it's the September TAC meeting today, isn't it?
It is.
Sorry, just dawning realization.
So do folks think Friday the 23rd would be enough time? Okay, I'll make that in my memo, the 23rd, so that'll give us a week to put together the packet.
Yeah.
Package it all and make it look pretty.
Right.
Okay.
So, no one else has any other questions? Let's move on to number 4. This is your opportunity to talk about any other business or your community updates.
So I guess came up with an idea, looking at the New Markets project and closing to pedestrian, just a proposal, but I was thinking what can New Market do to have a small project, pilot projects. So we're thinking doing a tactical urbanism committee to do these little small projects, make little differences in town, see how it works, temporary, see how people use it, and just kind of learn from how people like it, something worth pursuing, or just study how people actually use the infrastructure more. So we're looking to do that.
Well, that's a really good idea for a project like this. If folks have seen the demo Complete Streets, where you just use chalk and
Right.
soft barriers and temporary paint to demonstrate what they've used it to before the pandemic to show what eliminating the parking and using that as a dining, on-street dining would look like. So it's sort of like a live charrette where you set up temporary traffic controls and advertise the heck out of it so people know what's happening before they drive into downtown. But I wonder if there's room for something like a charrette for this
And it
project.
facilitates that conversation. I think people are worried about that project is how the people will react to it. So you're having those conversations beforehand, you're collecting that data, and you're, everyone's trying to get on the same page at least and come up with a better project. So I feel that's the usefulness of that group, that committee. So looking forward to that. That's great.
Clover did that in the early 90s. Near the post office, when they closed off Green Street for about a year or so, they used Jersey barriers and lots of output, educational output to the folks. Turned out that closing Green Street was the perfect thing to do on Locust Street and just that the way the whole traffic flow worked around the post office. So that was a pilot project. They used the ugly Jersey barriers, but it seemed to work that way.
So I know that Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission at one point had purchased some the more decorative pieces to go with the Jersey barriers to do those sorts of setups, and they do offer to loan them out. So that's something where we might be able to borrow some
Decorative pieces.
Yes, yeah, I think they have like the faux grass and a few other things to go along those lines. Yeah.
I was gonna too, if we had Jersey bears, we get some, we can always have ours made them too. I mean, I know for traffic projects, a little, you don't want any distractions, but you know, kind of.
Yeah.
UTCD.
Right, exactly.
Steve, do you have a question or comment on that?
No, I just had an update from UNH. I wanted to let everyone know that in the next week or two, the university and the town will be putting out our new bike share system in Durham. It's called Cat Tracks, and it's a public-private partnership with Oyster River Cycles, the university, and the town of Durham. So it'll be an app-based bike share program, and we're going to run it in pilot mode this fall, and then learn what we learn and hit it full force in the spring. So 30 bikes are on campus being deployed, and look forward to sending you the link for the ribbon cutting, and it will be open to the public, of course, as well as UNH faculty, staff, and students. So.
Anybody else have any community updates? Brad?
Sure. So Coast was a recipient of one of the FTA Capital Bus and Bus Facilities grants, $7.7 million. So that was pretty exciting announcement in mid-August. So we have, based on the conceptual design we have now for our new facility on our current site in Dover, we have all of our federal funding in place and from the FTA, so 80% of the project. And we're now working on the remaining 17.8%, because we have 2.2 through another source, to be able to match those federal dollars. We're working with Senator Shaheen on a congressionally directed spending request for $2 million that could be used to match our FTA grant. So then we'd be down to about $620,000 left. We're hopefully pretty close on finishing up design to get to 30%, and then we'll move on to going to the 60% design level. Yesterday we announced that we're launching a new app so people can track where our buses are in real time. We have one now, but that contract came to an end, and we have moved to a different vendor, which we're really excited about because the data that we can get on the back end will be much more robust. So that'll go live on Tuesday. There's going to be some hiccups because of the timing of all of this, but go live Tuesday. So go to our website.
Tell them look at orange line of Boston.
Yeah.
Better than that.
Yeah. Well, we've got a bus out in the middle of the Gulf of Maine right now, so. And we don't operate ferry service, so just say, yeah, a couple of glitches. So, supply chain issues, let's put it that way. And then, we're gonna do free rides to the polls for the state primary elections. And we're about to announce the return of some limited Saturday service to our schedules again. So excited to be staffed up enough to be able to do that again. But staffing continues to be a major issue, just like for Wildcat and anybody else that has commercial drivers. So
this is just on that, but it's just the public sector. It seems like my folks are still out in Portland, Oregon, and the school district is paying teachers just to show up on day one, just to be there, $1,500, like cash, just please show up on day one.
Wow.
We did a bunch of traffic counts on Monday in Dover, and at the big complex situations, we get a police detail, and we chatted with the officer who was with us stopping traffic. He said when he took his police exam at Great Bay Community College in 2015, there were 2,000 other officers who passed the exam at the same time. This year, there were 20. And that's for the entire state of New Hampshire and southern Maine, York County. 20 officers to fill positions in the entire state. So I don't know what the heck is going on, but good public sector jobs, just people can't stay in them. Or I don't know.
All right, so I will give you.
That was a bummer, sorry.
My community update here. You see this hat here, it says Milton Three Ponds. It's a very nice hat. They come in different colors. So,
What are you raising money
this is
for?
the Three Ponds Protective Association, which is a great group that tries to protect the clean waters of Milton Three Ponds. They sell these hats and other things, and if you go to their website, TPPA, you'll be able to help them do that.
It is a nice hat.
The last thing I have is that I will not be here on October 7th,
Okay.
so we would need the vice chair.
Oh, the vice chair is on vacation that day.
See, there you go. That's why I'm telling you
Just
now.
Do you
FYI.
have an alternate to the vice chair?
No, we can accept anyone as a chair pro tem.
Whoever comes first.
I'm gonna be out of state. Obviously, I can't be here in person, so I might be able to be here from Zoom land.
We also sell things at Coast. Really nice squishy buses for $3 a piece. You can also buy monthly passes if you want, or other things like that. Since we're gonna push product.
Shameless.
You know, but the Milton Three Ponds, you know, if we're gonna go with shameless plugs, SRPC is working with the Milton Three Ponds folks to put in a grant application to do a watershed plan to look at the various sources of pollution that would then make the town eligible for 319 funds to do actual mitigation projects.
So pollute and Milton, is that what you just said?
Help them? No. They, you know, match dollars, buy their hats, no, I'm just kidding. It doesn't work that way.
There's a method to my madness. All right, so let's move on to number 5, citizens forum. If there are any citizens out here that are not part of the TAC, speak up now or forever hold your peace. And that's that. I'm looking for motion.
Oh, I'm supposed to leave? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here on Holiday Weekend Friday and for your input, and send me your scores and other questions. Thank you. Don't need to vote.